Evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Sawyer and Baylor's World. It is Thursday night, February the 20th. Most of you probably heard already. For those that have not heard, the Bibas family, in addition to another person, was released today. Unfortunately, they came out in body bags. It's a very tragic, very sad day for the Jewish people, not just in Israel, but across the world. And it should be equally sad for all people of all civilized nations, civilized people across the world, to see something as horrid as the barbarism and the savagery displayed by Hamas and the so-called Palestinians. And I always use that word so-called. I'm going to open up tonight by Bela. Would you please give us a roundup, talk about this? I know this is a very difficult one.
It's been horrible. So here's what's been going on. So as we know, the bodies were released. They were supposed to release Cfir Bibas, Cfir, and you know what? I am so broken up with this that I have a blank with a name.
Well, the two little boys.
The two little boys. Yeah.
Ariel and Cfir.
This is just this is shaking me up incredibly. So what happened was they were going to identify the bodies, and after completing the identification process by the National Center for Forensic Medicine, and they did that in cooperation with the Israeli police. It just came out this evening that IDF representatives informed the Bibas family that their loved ones, Ariel and Cfir Bibas, a blessed memory, have been identified. According to their assessment, and these are professional authorities, and in accordance with the intelligence available to us and the forensic findings, these two little boys were brutally murdered in captivity. And it happened, according to what they say, in November 2023, which is about a month after they were captured. During the identification process, it was found that the additional body, the additional body was supposed to be Cfir Bibas, but it turns out it wasn't. They have no clue who that woman is. Not only that, but no match was found for any other abductees. The body is not Cfir. Okay, the two little boys were identified, and they were identified to have been murdered in a brutal manner. But the other body of the woman is not Cfir. We don't know who she is. Nobody knows who she is. It's an anonymous body without identification. This is a serious violation by Hamas terrorist organization, which was required by the agreement to return 4 dead abductees.
Well, Bela,
it is to be demanded that Hamas return Cfir home along with the other abductees. Who is that body? Where is Cfir? If she's alive and if she's still a hostage, where is she? How did they put a different body? The question is, did they do this on purpose? That's the question. Did they do this on purpose? And if they did they not think that forensics was going to try to identify the body? This makes no sense. I'm telling you, I am lost for words.
Senseless and horrific.
They commit. Everything they do is about psychological warfare. So when you go and you ask, did they do this on purpose? It's hard to imagine that they didn't. It's hard to imagine that somebody would do this to do what they did, but this is what they do. And psychological warfare is the game that they play every day. So yeah,
to such an extent. By the way, do you know that they locked the coffins? Originally, they locked the coffins that needed to be opened with a key. I guess they should have been suspicious at that point.
There's no doubt in my mind that it was done deliberately. It was done on purpose. And as you mentioned, this is a grotesque violation of the first stage of the agreement. However, Bela, it's not, and Soya, it is not the first time they have violated the agreement, nor is it the last time they will violate any further agreements, if there are any further agreements.
Can you imagine the word agreement even? Agreement usually you make with the person, it comes from like agreeable. You're making it with a sane person, that the two meetings of the mind. Could you imagine with a person who commits monstrous acts? It's like making a deal with Hannibal Lecter.
Sit down and make agreements with.
I'm gonna put you in next to a live body. Please don't eat them. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you make a deal with someone who committed such atrocities and then expect them to keep to the deal? So there really isn't, and the not the funny, the insane part that keeps on being more and more insane is that this is not the first time. And think about it. I mean, even let alone today. I mean, we're not up to this part, but think about it. Somebody, and we know that it was probably Hamas, because in Tel Aviv, somebody planted 5 bombs.
Oh, yeah. That's
separate. Five separate pieces of transportation.
Right.
Three of them detonated on buses. Luckily, from my understanding, nobody was injured, and it was 3 buses. But who do you think? What peace agreement?
Well, they messed up the time. They also messed up the timing too.
And they need to be carpet bombed. They need to be carpet bombed. They need to be cleaned out, wiped off the face of this earth, Hamas. They shouldn't be planted anywhere else, because when you're planting people, and they shouldn't be provided money. They shouldn't be provided anything. And every single country should be standing together with Israel. It shouldn't just be the United States now.
But they're not. That's the crazy thing. The world is watching. The world is watching, and the world heard tonight how these babies, these precious little boys, were murdered in a brutal way. And as time goes on, we're going to get more details. How could somebody not have nightmares? I can't even.
What kind of details?
I can't even speak
Bela,
clearly.
what are we going to be told? We're going to be told that those 2 little babies who were so innocent and didn't have full cognition and understanding of anything other than just.
And what they did was, on the coffin they wrote arrested. Do you know that? You know what they on the coffin of all these hostages, of all these dead hostages, they wrote arrested October 7, 2023. Lil Cfir and little Ariel was arrested for what? What crime did they commit? Because they were born Jewish?
For being in
That's the crime?
in their home. They were for being innocent in their home.
And as Bela said, being born Jewish. I think this leads. I think this
leads. That's a crime.
That's a crime in their book. I think this leads to another thing. I think people should be aware that this is not a war over land. This war with Israel is a war. It's a religious war. It is a jihad. It's a holy war, as far as they're concerned, based on their religious beliefs and faith.
Unholy war.
Unholy war. But it is not over land, because land they were offered, and they had an opportunity to have land. And they did, in fact, have land, the Gaza now, totally independently, without any restriction. There has been it wasn't a cage of any kind. It's an open, beautiful piece of land that they could have built a beautiful island paradise on.
It could have been a tourist site. It could have been. That's
what it was. And since 2005. But the so-called innocent, when you saw on TV or on wherever you watched your reports about the release of these remains of these few hostages today, Palestinians, not just Hamas, ordinary Palestinians, cheering,
Oh my
singing,
gosh. It was,
celebrating.
and I will
Now,
say this.
when you look at this and you think to yourself, people in civilians, people say they're
Nobody-
complicit. But you know
there's no
something?
innocent civilian
That's
in
correct.
Gaza. I'm sorry to say.
They
But
are complicit. They cooperate.
they
And they
very
did
much. In
cooperate
fact,
of that. There are innocent civilians there.
in fact, I will say this: that the United Nations, who's not of Israel,
They're not much of anything.
But I will say that the United Nations rights chief said the parading, because they were parading the bodies, that the parading of body Gaza, and these words were abhorrent and flies in the face of international law. Hamas handed over the bodies of these Israeli of children, and we all thought it was Shiri.
Well, I don't know. Does that you think
and also,
that leads...
let's not forget and give respect to the other hostage, the fourth hostage, there was supposed to be four, but it turns out
he was a gentleman, Bela.
Oded Lifshitz.
Bela, this man was a gentleman.
I know.
He spent his life trying to befriend these people.
Yes,
he brought them to hospitals.
He drove the kids. Yes, he drove the Gazan kids to hospitals.
Yes. He employed them, as many other Israelis that gave him good employment. And what did they do? They drew up maps quietly, and they planned something like this. And these are the so-called innocent Palestinian civilians. There is no such thing. They are all Islamo-fascists.
They've proven it.
They're nothing less. The proof is in the pudding. It's there, and anybody denies it. What's discussed in the world today still turns on and still holds at the vast majority, still at the Jews, though they're the bad guys, and these people are somehow innocent. God bless President. You know what he said when today he made a statement. They should a whole one building she's standing is great. Everything. The only problem is to be a few hostages.
A couple of months I would have said, I don't think any is. But there are that are alive about Jews that but one Israel is doing. Go.
Look what Israel did.
They are seeing something. I will say because the fact is that you said international law, any handover of the remains of the deceased must comply with the prohibition, inhumane or degrading. That must be ensured.
Bela,
they didn't.
I think this is because of it's right now, leader of the free world. And I think that's why the United Nations had made a statement. They did it under Biden's. But let's get back for a second. The rest of the world, this is not just against the Jewish people. Israel is the vanguard line. It is a tiny little state of 10 million people altogether, which includes about 2 million. And
by the way, are treated very well.
Surrounded. I'm sorry, what did you say?
Very well.
Of course, I won at a law firm. One of them was a part law firm of Israelis. And they have the highest standard of living anywhere. Treat sins in every way. They are on the Israeli Supreme Court, mingled and it's all over the place. They didn't say anything about Israel being an apartheid. That sick wise applications, these sick Palestinian garbage, because there's nothing. It is farther than America than we right here in the United States has ever been. It is more here in the States. But I want people in the world to understand that Israel being surrounded very easy, the Jewish people and the tiny little Israel is the vanguards to come. They are infiltrating the United States.
That's right.
Ultimate global caliphate. Global caliphate. They want this goal is not unlike the Judeo-Christian we believe Messiah world. 12th Mahdi effect. You convert exactly said.
That's Christians that back history. It's not even about convert Islam. Oh, you're Jewish. I want to kill you. That's how they see it. The Jews are.
They're going for They're going after everybody.
Oh, they're going after everybody. This is what the world doesn't get it.
Well,
and Palestinians,
they
don't understand.
Line.
That's right.
What about the gay and the lesbians? They that are right Islam law and they get their heads knocked. 100%. This is what it's all about. And they are so foolish. These are what's referred to by many as useful idiots that are being brainwashed. And because they're deep down, they have their anti-Semitism within them, something that they use to manifest their anti-Semitism by this way.
Right.
But they ask you, do you think now that they not deliver Shabbat, And do you think there's any chance still alive? Either there's any chance she'll die? One second. You said to me earlier, we had this discussion.
I think
You said to me something. You said that they may be keeping her alive for a reason, and I'd like you to please tell that to the people and explain.
So this is there's a thing called the jihad baby. Now we spoke a little bit about that.
Right, I didn't understand it
a
till you explained.
baby is a baby born out of struggle. That's how it's
struggle. It's a rape.
Well, no, they consider a baby. In other words, when a mother, in fact, it still exists today, a few years, but men, young girls into romantic relations, and bring them to Arab villages, and they lure them in a way, with candy, with chocolate, and they acted like the perfect gentleman. Sometimes girls did not know, these Israeli girls know that they were Arabs. They thought they were, dark Sephardic men. Basically, what they wanted from them is to impregnate these girls to have their babies. Those babies are considered a baby born out of struggle, a baby that is on the religion of its father. As opposed to Jews, where the religion of the baby is according to the mother. So if the mother is Jewish, the baby is Jewish.
So according to the
Arabs,
Islamic
one second.
law,
so Arabs, I just want to say, Arabs love a Jewish woman give birth to a baby, their baby being a Muslim child.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a baby born out of struggle, and that's all about. They love that sort of thing.
Now, why do that? What do they have from these babies? What are
more
Muslim
babies?
Jews.
Exactly.
Sometimes they will kill them, and I feel I'm hopeful that she's still alive. Don't know any, but it's possible that
based on this theory that you presented there.
Possible they saw a woman who's fertile. She is a looking woman. Beautiful baby. Possible they're using her. I don't know. I can't say. I don't know. But the problem is that when you're dealing with savages, the most thing is possible.
So
the worst nightmare that one can imagine is something.
But also, we talk about this.
You can't give these people the benefit of. They pulled baby cribs.
Put them in ovens.
Bela, they put them in ovens and bake them on. They might have babies
in front of parents.
Horrific and disgusting. There was recently just a poll that showed here in the United States, a majority of Democrats, and when we talk Democrats, we're talking about these leftist liberals, unfortunately, still have more sympathy for the so-called than do for the unbelievable. It's just sick. This is to the Judeo heritage, to everything that Western society did. But we are founded on. Two pillars of Western society are when you're Jewish Christian. The message of Judaism and Christianity, despite what Christianity had its offshoots and did for essentially the message of peace, not murder, something of unrecognized. They refuse somehow to recognize the savage brutality that we rise with those of that kind of savage brutality. These Hamas are much worse than the Nazis. Why? If you look at your history, first Nazis that were shooting Jews, killing Jews, they didn't do it in the same barbaric manner as these. They didn't bake them alive. Their heads were not bloody and gory.
They shut up there.
Not as horribly. It was nothing, but they did.
I'm a child survivor.
Nevertheless,
I grew up hearing horrible things.
Bela, a great many of these Nazi soldiers had done this. They had to drink them. They lived themselves. But not right. Many of them had a drink to go to be Easters. On the other hand, not only they do it with joy, they call up their mom and say, "Hey, mom, what? I just slaughtered 10 humans. Hey, so more power to you. That's my boy. That's my boy. So proud of you, my dear son, for what you have done." And those Palestinians, their sons, are of what Nazis do. Nazis, nobody wants to know on that. He destroyed them before the armies were there, so it shouldn't be shown what was going on. They didn't get the animals do it with joy in such a way. Anything the Nazis had ever done.
So there's an answer to it. So I circle back to something else said. My response is birth to children. If they're pregnant, they hope the child martyr itself. In my late early, then I was watching a documentary where Palestinian women were being interviewed, and they said, "I hope the child martyr him or herself." So brought into the world the focus killing Jews, and if they kill Jews, then so be it. Nazis were
not kill himself.
Some wanted to do, some volunteer, some were forced. We don't know. But the Palestinian children, they're taught school and in plays. I've watched plays where they kill Jews and they do and they pretend they do role playing where they strap themselves with explosives.
In other words, this very life
They believe they are born to kill Jews.
This
and if it means that they die along with them, that's fine. But to them, they're going to paradise with it.
Right. Well, it's interesting you say that, Bela. And, I address you both, Bela and Soya, because I remember listening to a Rabbi Yossi Mizrahi, and I listened to his lectures, and then I enjoy it. He said, if you handed a gun to a Palestinian, Hamasnik, or one of these savages, and targeted a Jewish man or woman, and said, go ahead, Jewish man and whatever, what you're going to Haram
in a heartbeat.
It their lives. I will pull it off.
The purpose.
You told them shoot this with a cut finger. You say, hey, don't touch my finger.
They were very neat. They wouldn't want their
There's a difference. Bela, I want to shift, please.
The rest of the world, what does the rest of not see? What the Palestinians, you think they would Hamas is, and the psychological involved. Hate person, no matter what they do, you will downplay good they do. Lucky, if they do bad, offend them. It's Jews. So if somebody hates us, right, it doesn't matter. Even if they the Jews started it.
You're 100% right. It's an irrational hatred that's gone on since the beginning of.
And we've been hated.
There's been since there was historical sibling rivalry between Isaac.
Right.
But the interesting part is that when you go back, at the time that when Abraham died,
right,
Ishmael and Isaac made peace between themselves.
They made peace.
The brothers got along. They both together, and the Torah goes out of it. They buried Isaac. Both sons buried Abraham as one unit. So there was peace between them. There is something that says that the end of the we are in now, and I said it many times. So we're the final wrap, and I get into things now again, but I've said it many times. There has to be a point, and maybe part of the come to play. Some happened between the descendants of Israel, and it's something that at the end of the come to pass. So many savages out there remain, and those the key is to destroy the savages. Bela, this build up on the issue from their script, massive build up. Like you now stated against what Trump did, and Trump doubled down on it, and he said because there is nothing left for them to come back. They come back peacefully when it's a beautiful paradise, make a new city where people can live like if possible. Now they're very much that want to take in any of them. They're going to be always going to, with his own nation. Do they pose a threat? And you think they're up for or just a point to Donald Trump?